Hey guys, it's Sam, and today I'm doing a little mini unhaul. So as you guys know, about this time last year, I think it would have been, I did a massive unhaul of my bookshelves. I did a KonMari method, I did a little follow-up one after that, I think I did a guide to unhauling. So I will leave a lot of those videos linked up above throughout this video if you guys want to check those out. But if you are familiar with decluttering and minimalism or anything like that, you probably know that every once in a while you still have to check back in and kind of go through some of those spaces. I think books is a good one to check in with on a fairly regular basis, like every season maybe, and kind of look and see, are these still books I want to keep? Are these still books I want to keep in my TBR? Whatever the case may be. And I'm doing that with my shelves today. Also, I'm getting ready to move again. I know. I knew this move was coming. I've known since I moved in here that this move was coming. So this is something that I knew this place wasn't going to be permanent by any means. But because of that, it's like, okay, I don't want to necessarily pack up a ton of books that I don't really need to take with me. So I have some. It's not like a huge unhaul the way the KonMari one was, but I have some books that I was very easily able to see, okay, I can get rid of these. And actually, a lot of these are from my physically already read books, not my TBR. I only have 2 books from the TBR shelf that are going. The rest are just books that I've already read. So I feel like the theme for this unhaul are books that I don't think I'm going to reread and that I felt kind of mediocre about. Not really good, not really bad necessarily. So I don't really feel the need to keep them around. They're not really books that pop up in discussion videos. They're not books that really even come to mind. They're books that I find fairly forgettable, a lot of these. Some of them that's not true for, but most of these. So that is what I decluttered this time around on my shelves. So I'll show you a little before and after. Again, nothing super drastic. This is the current state of my shelves. I'm not going to clean them up for you because this is how they currently look, like pre-move. And this is the TBR shelf. These are books that I recently got and haven't put up here yet, and then this is my current TBR, so it's a little bit in shambles right now. And he usually doesn't like this. I usually don't pull out TBR books because I read by mood, but this month I wanted to read spoopy things, so I pulled those out. But yeah, that's how it currently looks. So I don't think this will diminish a ton, but I will show you what the finished product is. So the first set of books is probably one that's very surprising to some of you, and are books that I never thought myself that I would get rid of, but I think it is time, and that is all of my Laurel K. Hamilton mass market paperbacks. So that is all of these, as well as all of these. And that is 19 books in total. So the reason I decided on doing this is for a couple of reasons. So you may or may not know that the Laurel K. Hamilton Anita Blake Vampire Hunter series is one of my most read series of all time. I reread it a lot in high school and college. It was like my Harry Potter. I just always reread it. So that series, and then the, oh god, what's the other one called? The Mary Gentry series. Those are her 2 urban fantasy series. And they have many, many books in them now. They probably each have like over 19 books in the series. I don't know, something astronomical. And I always love these books, and I bring them up, especially the Anita Blake series. It's a series that I gave up on because I started going more towards erotica, so I haven't read it in some time, and I haven't reread it, but I always held on to them because these are books that I've read multiple times, as you guys could see from the condition of them. Some of them are missing pages, some of them have like water damage, the spines are all cracked on all of them. Each of them had cover changes throughout the series, so I think I have 3 different versions of covers from the Anita Blake series, and I think they've changed the covers since the most recent covers that I have. So they're not matching. There's nothing about them that I really need to keep at this point. They are very well loved, and I always know to mention the Anita Blake series. Like, it's not a series that I'm going to forget just because I don't have it on my shelf as a reminder. I'm going to remember them. Also, they're in a smaller portion of my bookshelf, so I have a little smaller shelf on the end that I showed you guys, and that's where I keep my books that I read for the month. And then some of my like arcs and stuff, it's a smaller IKEA shelf like this big. And they take up all of one section, kind of like stacked. So it's just taking up space that it doesn't really need to, and since I moved in here, I didn't sort them. Like, I didn't put them away nicely, I just stuffed them in there, and they were just like stacked in a way I couldn't even see them, so it's like, you know what, I don't need to keep these anymore. I know that they exist. If I ever want to reread them, I'll either get them from my library or get them on my Kindle and reread them that way. I don't need the physical copies. I don't even like reading mass market paperbacks. I can get them from used bookstores. They're literally everywhere, and it's not like I'm getting rid of like limited edition copies. So they're going. 19 mass market paperbacks that I've had since like high school are going. And I'm totally fine with that. Then I have 2 books for my TBR shelf. One is this edition of Vicious, which, yeah, I've already read Vicious. So I got another edition of Vicious that I read because I got sent that before Vengeful came out, and that matches the Vengeful copy that I have. So this is the edition of Vicious that I bought years ago. Actually, I think I was given it as a gift years ago, and I don't need this copy anymore. So this is a TBR book that I've read, but it was still on my TBR shelf because I forgot to take it off. So I read this book, but I don't need this edition. And the other one is And I Darken by Kirsten White. This is a book that I've been checking out of my library for audiobook like on and off for some time, and I just really can't get into it. I don't think I'm going to read it on physical copy. I think I'm just going to get rid of it and then eventually finish it on audiobook. I don't need to keep the physical copy because I don't plan on reading the physical copy. I plan on reading the audiobook. And the rest are books that I've read that I don't really plan on rereading. Maybe I don't plan on continuing with the series. Some of them are books that I did really like at the time, but just have kind of lost interest in over time, stuff like that. So these are books that have kind of lingered a tad too long on my shelf that I don't feel like I need because I don't feel super drastically one way or the other about most of these. So the first is The Thief by Megan Wayland Turner. This is actually a series I do want to continue, but just not in these editions. They've recently come out with new editions of these books you can get in a box set, and I plan on buying those at some point or giving them as a gift or something. So this is a really beat up copy that I got from a Borders. That's how old it is. Like years ago. So it might have been like a used book or something. So I plan on rereading these. I just don't need this edition, and when I eventually reread them is when I'll buy new editions. I don't need to keep this on my shelf until then. Then we have Shadow Shaper by Danielle Jose Older. I liked this book, but I don't plan on continuing with the series. It was like a solid 3 for me. I think it was fairly creative, but I just don't tend to like love his writing as far as this series. So it's just not one I plan to continue, so I don't need to keep it around my shelves. Then we have Me Before You by Jojo Moyes. I felt very meh about this. I didn't hate it as much as some people. I definitely didn't love it as much as some people. I think I gave it like a solid 2.5. It was totally in the middle for me. It's not one that I think about. It's not one that I talk about. Then we have Eleanor in Park by Rainbow Rowell. I almost kept this one because I have a collection of Rainbow Rowell books. I didn't like this Rainbow Rowell book, and I've talked about how I don't like it. And I think if someone asked me about contemporary books that I don't like, I'd be very easily able to talk about this one without having, again, the cover there as a reminder. Sometimes I keep books around because I need like the visual reminder of them. I don't really need that for this. I know it exists. It's very popular. I don't really talk about it that much anymore because, again, it was something that was very mediocre to negative for me, so I don't really need to keep it around. Then we have Walk on Earth a Stranger by Ray Carson. I actually really liked this first book, but then just lost interest in it. No one really talked about the rest of the series. I didn't really hear very good things. This was like a 4-star, but I would definitely have to reread it to continue with the series, and I don't feel motivated to reread it because I didn't love it that much. Again, solid like 4-star book. So I'm going to be letting go of this one. I still love the Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy. Nothing changes my mind about that, but this series just wasn't anything that really gripped me the way that one did. Then we have The Host by Stephanie Meyer. This is a book I got from a used bookstore very early on in BookTube. I think like the first Christmas before BookTube. I went home and it was at a half-price books and people were talking about The Host and how it was pretty good. So I picked it up. I only read the audiobook within the last like 6 months to a year, and I'm not going to reread it. It was enjoyable-ish. I feel like it was like a 3.5 for me. I'm not going to reread the physical copy for sure. I probably won't reread the audiobook. I'm okay with my Host experience. If I want to experience The Host again, I'll watch the movie because I actually kind of like the movie a bit more. Then we have The Mere Empire by Cameron Hurley. This is the first book in an adult science fiction fantasy trilogy, and I don't plan on continuing with the series. I gave it 2 stars. I think that there was a lot of things about it that were enjoyable, but I just ultimately didn't really like it. And there's other series by Cameron Hurley that I want to read that I think I'll enjoy more, and there's other sci-fi and fantasy books that I have on my shelf that I want to read that I'll think I'll enjoy more. I've forgotten a lot about this and I don't plan on continuing, so I don't need to keep it around. Then we have Vengeance Road by Erin Bowman, another book that I liked. I think I gave it 4 stars. It's like a standalone Western, but nothing really memorable about it. I don't remember the characters really. I don't plan on rereading it. It's not part of a series. It was good. I really like the cover. I think that's why I've kept it around a lot longer than it needed to be kept around, but I don't really think I'll talk about it much anymore. The School for Good and Evil by Soman Chainani is the first book in a middle grade like fairy tale series. This book took me forever to read. We buddy read it, a big group of us buddy read it at one point, and it took us all like 3 weeks to get through. I don't plan on continuing with the series. At one point I was thinking about it. I was kind of on the fence, which is why I kept this around, but I don't think I'm going to continue with the series. I don't tend to love middle grade, and this is not a series I want to force myself through, so yeah, I'm just gonna give this one up because I'm never gonna reread it and I'm not gonna continue with the series. Then we have Winter Song by S.J. Jones. I liked this first book. It was like a 3-star. I thought it had potential, but I hated the second book, and that was, I think, the end of the series, I want to say. I don't actually even know. I think it's just a duology. Yeah. See, I don't even remember, and that's why I'm getting rid of it, because I don't care about it that much. I know I don't like it, so again, I could always bring it up as like, this is a disappointing series in my head, but I don't need it as a reminder. I don't love it that much, and I don't hate it that much. It's just kind of left my brain. This one sort of pains me, and that is Strands of Bronze and Gold by Jane Nickerson. This is the first book that I ever reviewed here on my channel. The video is still up if you want to go watch it. I am an infant in it. But this is a mediocre book. I know if I would go back and reread this, it would probably get a lower rating than it even got. It was just, it's very forgettable. I remember it because it was the first book that I ever read for BookTube. It's a Bluebeard retelling. So I don't need to keep it, even though I have fond memories of it. I will always remember this is the first book I read for BookTube. I don't need to keep it on my shelf because I'm not going to reread it. Then I have a few arcs that I'm getting rid of, and that's the last of the pile. The first one is Carve the Mark by Veronica Roth. You all remember the shitstorm that happened when this book came out. I just held on to it because I didn't really want to put it back out into the void, really. Like, I didn't know what to do with it. I was like, this should not be let out into the world. But I also don't care to keep it because, again, I don't talk about it. It's so mediocre to me as just a story, not to mention the, like, bad things that we've all discussed and we all know. Like, it's just a mediocre story. I didn't continue with the series. I'm not going to continue with the series. But I just didn't really know, like, I didn't know what to do with it. Almost feels like a, like, lesser Horcrux or something. So I've just held on to it, but now I'm like, I don't need to hold on to this. I can just let it go because there's no reason it needs to be taking up space on my shelf either. The next arc is Caraval by Stephanie Garber. I've held on to this one because I hate it, and you guys know how I like holding up the books I hate and like hitting them, so it's a thing that I do. Like, the Bronze Horseman's still sitting its ass on my shelf because it's going to be known that I hate it. But this arc, I don't really feel like I need to keep it. One of the reasons I've kept it is because it is signed and personalized to me because I got it at BEA the year that it came out. And that's also evidence that, like, I wanted to like this book, god damn it, and I didn't. And I'm mad about it because I still get shitty fucking comments on that video about, like, accusing me of being a bad person or, like, hating the author or, like, I didn't just get it and this book is better than The Night Circus, which honestly, go choke. And I just, no, like, I don't need to keep it around. I know that I hate it because I keep getting reminders that I hate it from people still commenting on the video review that I did of it, expressing my opinion about how I don't think it's a good book. But I've held on to it because it's personalized. And I never know what to do with personalized books. Like, I feel bad giving them up, which is why I hate that a lot of book signings make you personalize them, because it's like, okay, I'm not trying to sell this book right now. What if in the future I want to give it up and it has my name in it? What then? We all change, Sandy. So why do you make me have it be personalized? Sandy in my head is the person that gives you the sticky notes to write your name in it. I don't need it because I know I don't like it. It needs to go, but it's personalized, so that always makes me a little bit salty. Then we have The Collapsing Empire by John Scalzi. I don't remember a lot of things about this book. I don't really plan on continuing with the series. We might have to read it for the BookTube SFF Awards, but if that's the case, then I'll just have to, like, get this from my library or something. I don't plan on rereading it. I don't want to. It was just okay. It was just like 3 stars. I'd rather just read Old Man's War, which is one of his other series. It's pretty good. So, bye. Then we have Furthermore by Tata Mafi. This is another personalized one because it was a BEA arc. And, like, I liked this, so it was, like, fine. It's like 3 stars. Maybe a 3.5. But, like, I don't need to keep it because it's not really, like, a series the same. Maybe it is. I'm about to read Witchwood, which is the second book in this, like, world. So maybe it's sort of a series, but I don't think I need to reread this one to know anything about that one. And it was just fine. Cover's pretty. It's personalized. But, again, those are not reasons to keep it around, in my opinion. Then we have Aru Shah and the End of Time. This is a book I actually just read last month, but I read it on an audiobook. And if I reread it, I'm going to reread it on an audiobook because I liked the audiobook narration. So I don't need to keep a physical book on my shelf because it's now in my audiobook library. So I liked this. So I like 3 stars. Nice little middle grade adventure romp, but I just don't need to keep an arc of it on my shelf. And lastly, we have The Bells by Donnell Clayton. This is a series I'm still on the fence about if I'm going to continue with it or not, but I find it pretty easy to read and I remember a lot from it. So I don't really need to keep a physical copy around because I'm very, like, meh, undecided about it. I feel like it was a very solid like 3.5 again. Like all these, most of them, what they have in common is they were like 3-star reads, and this is one of those as well. So maybe I'll continue with the series, but if I do continue, I don't need to reread this one, so I don't need to keep this one around. So in total, I'm getting rid of 38 physical books, which I think is a nice little declutter, and everything else are books that I want to keep on my shelf or that I want to read. So yeah, we're good. We'll see what the beginning of the year brings. I feel like I might do this again in like the springtime again and kind of reevaluate some of the books that I've gotten since then and whatever, but I've gotten really good about letting go of books that I don't want to keep anymore, and books that I don't want to read. If I do get them, I usually give them away immediately, so I'm not bringing in the level of books that I used to be and the hopes that I'll read them. Like, they just go. So here's the after of my shelves, which again, nothing super groundbreaking or anything. I'm not getting rid of a ton of things. You can kind of see where some space opened up. Okay, so here are my reorganized shelves. So obviously I freed up a lot of room up here. And then the bottom with that area used to be all ARCs. And then here's the TBR shelf. So I sorted the ones that were sitting out, and then I have the TBR for this month down here, kind of out of the way. So comment down below and let me know if any of these books surprised you that I was getting rid of, if there's anything that you do as far as keeping your shelves decluttered. Do you do regular unhauls like this? Do you struggle to do unhauls? I've done a whole guide to unhauling if you need more tips, but comment down below and let me know your thoughts. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys soon. Bye!